My art teacher threw away my whole project. Hello, welcome back to my channel, but if you're new here, please don't forget to subscribe. It means so very much to me. It really goes such a long way. We have a very different type of video today, which I'm so excited to do. I typically react to music, films, and series, but today we're reacting to my GCSE artwork. This is going to be so exciting to reminisce about my GCSE days 4 years ago now, which is crazy. But I just saw my artwork lying there and I thought, let's go through it. Let's have a throwback to when I was doing it. The stressful days, my gosh, it was tough. But I enjoyed it so much and I've got an incredible grade. Hey, the hard work paid off for sure. However, I went from a grade D in year 10, which is a fail, all the way in a year. So I'm going to give you some little tips on how I did it and how you might be able to do it. So I'll show you how I went from this to this. So let's take a really quick moment to discuss what project was thrown in the bin by my teacher. I think it was January. We were just about to go into our final few steps into our final project. I think we were just getting the prompts. And my teacher said, no, this is garbage. She told me that she threw it away. She didn't even give me the choice. She just did it. She said, you can do better. Let's restart. You have 3 months to do 2 projects. I was like, I have loads of other courses to do. My GCSE exams are up and coming. They're not ideal. I'm not going to lie. I'm glad she threw them away because I would have stayed with that grade D. Maybe I would have gone up to a C, potentially, with the work I was going on to do. But this is not looking good. I smashed it out. I worked hard. I did absolute hours and hours and hours. But I got there. So year 10, we were given a prompt of food or plants. And I think the plants might have been under natural forms, but the teacher told us, nope, it's plants. You're doing plants or food. Are you joking? Year 10, I can barely draw a stick man. Do you know what I mean? And I chose food, and that's the outcome I got. Horrendous. I remember we did a trip to Marwell Zoo and we had to draw things that we saw. I had to draw cupcakes the teacher brought for packed lunch. Silly. And it was a disaster. So, moving on very swiftly to save the embarrassment. So, after my work's been thrown away, we were then given a new prompt, which was books. Fascinating because there's so much you can do with textures and layering and that sort of vibe. But the most exciting part for me was we could choose our theme, sub-theme and all that jazz. You could go crazy, do whatever you wanted. Free reign. We started off choosing an artist. So I chose Jonathan Wolstenholme, if that's how you pronounce it. Artist names can be crazy. So you had to do like a artist copy. I then did some textural pieces of different medium because they always love that. Annotations, of course. A tip I will give, annotate. My annotations are atrocious. I just ramble about nonsense, so I'm never hitting the mark there because you need to really talk about why you're doing it, what your inspiration is, how you got to where you are, how you're getting to where you are, what you tried, what didn't work, what worked, all them little things. I just kind of write a bit of nonsense, really. I won't even read it because it's just embarrassing. And I think that's where I did slip some marks, was annotations. I don't think they read every single annotation, but the ones they do read, make sure they're good. So yeah, just some more artist copies and just experimenting with media, pretty much. And then we did another artist inspiration board. So just some artist research, discovering different types of artists. And I got to say, beautiful artist, absolutely beautiful. Florian Nicole? Let's go with that. The watercolour, the way it like drips and melts, it's so fascinating to me. So that's what I really wanted to replicate. So I did some artist copies. Down here we got Stephen King. But I just love the different media. So we've got like the layers. So it linked back to the overall branch of books. So you've got like the book pages ripped up and stuck on just to work on a base layer. Just adds different layers and textures, that's how you get marks. Layers, textures, mediums, experimenting. That's how you get marks. I can't tell you more. And then we come to the theme. My theme is clowns. I absolutely love clowns, especially at this age. I was really like, they're so interesting to me. They're spooky, they're scary, they've got different layers and colours and textures. They're so fascinating. So I did a board on my theme. So I did Pennywise, a copy of an image in like tonal media. I absolutely loved this. I started off with this one. This is my first one that I did down here. And I did that in Biro. And I remember I did that on holiday. And I had the best time doing that. But oh my gosh. The perfectionist inside me really came out with these two. I tell you what. But I'm so proud of how they turned out. People often do it in sketchbooks or books, but I loved this mood board type of base to work off. It gives you so much room and space, and I had imagery. You have to have imagery, and the way to really mark hard is using your own photographs. That's what they love to see. Just make sure you fill every single space. Filling the space, brownie points. Which I guess I kind of did leave space, but I used as much of it as possible. They love backgrounds, you know. If your artist does watercolour, do a watercolour background. That's what I lacked, which may have cost me marks. So the next stage is development. So you develop your theme. I was inspired by skulls, and like we did these little thumbnail things where you had 30 seconds to just create something crazy, collecting images and then making a collage and putting them all together. So with this project is one where I was very rushed. So for this section here, I didn't have many of my own images at all by the looks of it, which probably isn't ideal. It's not the worst thing, but you just score more for taking your own pictures. It just adds another layer of originality, I suppose. See, I've just got my own little thumbnail pieces here, which I then explored more of. I love this piece here. It's just with paint and different media, tonal. So really the whole thing is a process. You're trying to show your process of how you get from the start, from an artist's research, inspired yourself to create something, and then all the way to the final piece. You've just got to show every single process. Even if you know what you're doing at the end, you need to show how you got there. That's really the key point here. So moving on to an itso, as some people call them, Witso or something else, I'm not too entirely sure, but we call it an itso in the style of your artist. And I've got to say, I love this page. This is one of my favourites that I did. So you're basically taking your theme and your artists and creating your own piece, which I loved doing. This piece in the bottom here, so proud of how it turned out. I think it's so creative, so original. Because obviously it's inspired by my first artist, where you've got the books that are coming alive. They have arms, they're people, and then he's looking at the theme, the clown. But the book is the clown. So I thought that was chef's kiss to me. Probably one of the most creative, original ideas I had. And then over here I just did the second artist with all the dripping colours and just merging theme images together. So I merged the two clowns, Pennywise, the original one, and the newer version. So we then had a class where we just experimented with media. And that led us to this. We found different types of media. So we had bleach. At the time, I wasn't very understanding how it worked. So with this, you chose a theme and then you made a composition, a collage of different images to create something new, something your own. So I'm taking different sections of this image that I'm going to create, and we're using like pen over here, tonal, bleach, graphite, honestly everything you can think of. Chuck it in, experiment with it, and just explain what worked, what didn't work, what you liked, what you're going to use in the future, and just create as much art as possible. And from that experimenting, we then went on to do like a little mock, like a composition of theme images that I did. So I did the jigsaw, I did the jester hat, I then did the clown ruffles, just like adding all these different elements just to make something your own. And then, of course, using the different media. So I've got the biro pen that I've then watered down and done a beautiful little smearing, smudging texture. We've got the charcoal and tonal side all down here as well, which obviously tonal is my favourite to work in, if you haven't noticed. But I also quite enjoyed the biro, but I just never understood how to work it properly. Like, it's quite rough. And then down here we've got the bleach, which was fun to do, but I didn't want to do too much of because I wasn't confident in it. And I explained that in my annotations. I just say, like, I was experimenting with it, I was happy to explore it, but I wasn't confident with it, so I don't want to ruin the piece. And it didn't work for me, which is totally fine. And now we get to the fun part where you're slowly building to that final piece and how you get there. And this was my idea. I loved clowns and I loved faces, which is funny because I now think of it, both of my projects are about faces. I couldn't really tell you what I was doing. I just kind of wanted to draw clowns, so I did. So here we've got obviously a little composition of themes, sub-themes. And I started going down the route of half and half. So we've got half a face, half human, and then a clown or a skull and that sort of vibe. So here I did a skull, but obviously as a clown. And I just like a little booklet here. It's just good to have things popping out where I finally started taking my own photos. Yes, that is me dressed as a clown. Let's not talk about it. So I've got all these different images here of just collections of pieces that I did when I painted myself as a clown. Just really gives you those bonus points of creativity and you're styling your own pictures. This was when my art teacher was like throwing away my work. So she threw away that whole food project. Thank God, thank God, thank God. But then here I was like, right, I need to create something new. You're meant to have 3 projects. Your first one in year 10, the second one in year 11, and then the final one in the last like couple of months. So this one, I was allowed to merge them together. Don't know why, I just was. So I kind of had 2 projects that became one. I think it was because of time. I began to do skulls. It kind of links in with my spooky clown themes. So I think skulls then became my sub-theme, which is really cool. So here I'm working with charcoal, which I love. Love, love, love. I had the best time. So this is another artist's research piece. And this is where I gained inspiration from the half and half down here. So that's where I just started really building and merging everything I've created all into one. This is where I started experimenting with that idea in the development, where I went back to all my different artists. I just explored using the dripping. I loved that. That really stuck with me, so I wanted to explore that more. Just adding a hint of colour just really makes it pop, and I love that. And then I went on to my next theme for that part of the project. And these are my own images. I wanted those brownie points. I've talked about media and how it would give me ideas and bunch of waffle, really. So then I went on to develop that idea for this like part of the project. So then I started playing with skulls, which I absolutely loved doing, loved creating. So I had the skull and the human, half and half. So I recreated that artist copy, which you need to do as well. Artist copies and in the style of pieces really score high. So I made sure I did multiple of those. Just building different ideas and developing what I wanted to create in the final stage. You're graded on your ideas and how you get to it. Because most people in my class were like tracing things, and I hated that. I wanted to stay away from it. And I understand in some instances you're under a very tight time management situation, especially for the final exam, you get 10 hours. But it just wasn't for me. I wanted to create it off my own back, and I didn't want to just trace. It just took away the meaning of the piece, really. You're just copying. You're not creating something, my opinion. So then here I went on to do more ideas. I'm doing very, very similar pieces here. I think I did just kind of copy similar pieces that I've done before because I wanted artwork. I just needed as much as possible in this time. I was very stressed. Another little ideas board. I was creating different textures that I wanted to work on. So I was going to play with cards because I found that was really cool from the jesters and the jokers. Just ripping up the cards, making different textures, rough textures. It just really makes your piece pop out of the page. Pretty much this project I did off my own back. I had no prompt. I just ran free and my teacher said, yep, sure. Stick it on a blackboard and you're good to go. So I did another composition like before where I took images, kind of very similar actually to what I've done. Shocking. But I just created different media, layered it all up, which I found really fun. And it helped me get to my final idea, which is really working for that. I like this piece, but it's a bit random. Doesn't really make sense. But it is what it is. Now's when we start building to that final piece. So you're taking all your ideas, merging them. You're doing little thumbnails of little quick designs of what you want to do. Just start creating piece after piece until you build into something you really enjoy. So mine started off with something like this, which I think is all right. I hate my eyes. They are absolutely awful. I've come such a long way, thank God. So I love the ink and the ink splattering, just like my artist in the first one. So I just built off that idea. I tried something else very similar, but I didn't. I like this, but I don't like this. I don't like the border of the pages. I'd rather the pages be amongst the image. Just really helps it draw it out a bit more. When it's a border around it, it's a bit naff, I think, personally. I created like a small final piece, just like a little idea. And the background. I didn't really talk about how I got to this background, but I was inspired by the piece I did much earlier with the bleach. It just teabagging the paper and then adding bleach. Do I like this? Not so much. I like the idea, but I just don't think it's executed very well. I just cannot stand the eyes. The eye is awful. The eye's okay, but the outside, the eyelashes, I could not hack eyelashes to save my life. I really, really couldn't. Not good. I was going back and forth between this skull idea, and I love this piece. I just, again, ignore the eyelashes. They are atrocious. Let's not. But this time I did teabag, just splattering it on there, and I quite like this one. I just wanted to create as much options as possible, and then I could see which one I preferred to do. This was similar to the other one, but much lighter, and I think I prefer the colour of this background. more so than the dark brown, because it makes the image in the middle not stick out as much. It makes it look stuck on. Whereas this was blended into the background, which I think was really cool. And this was very much what led me to my final piece. This is awful, horrendous. I won't show it too long. I did not get this graded. I took this out because this is not okay. It's just a mess, to be honest. It's not good. It's awful. Like, it just doesn't make sense. So yeah, let's just ignore that. Let's... Bye-bye. I don't want it. So here is my final piece, which I am very impressed with. So for this piece, you get 10 hours, but I don't think this took 10 hours. I was too busy working on the project and trying to get as much work done as possible. So I probably spent, let's generously say 5 hours. It probably was less, but let's just say 5 hours. I love the skull. I think that's the best part of this piece. Again, that I ignore it. It's awful, but this was like year 10, so I was still learning. So that's where the progression comes in. That's that project done, which is super fun. Over summer, we had to do a challenge. I don't know whether this was graded or not. I think it might have just been some fun thing. So we had like a sketchbook that we were given, and we had 30 prompts that we had to create, or something like that. I can't remember. There might have been more. And this was so fun. I had the best time doing this. Let me just find some to show you. It really reminded me of that Wreck This Journal. You had all these prompts and you had to like follow. This, I think, was where my skull obsession started. And I did go on to use this piece in my project, as you just saw. It was lurking in there, you might have noticed it. Up house with finger paint things. This was very much inspired by Wreck This Journal. I remember doing something like that in that book. I'll have to see if I've got that somewhere lurking about. I was very impressed with this at the time. Interesting. I'm very proud of that page. At that time, I mean, I was no artist in year 10, summer holiday. So I'm very pleased with how that one turned out. Very fun little side project. I'm not sure if that's part of the course. We just did it because our teacher told us. I might have been the only one that did it. I'm not entirely sure. I was the year of COVID. So when we started our final project, I had about 6 weeks worth of school and then it was done. We were all stuck at home, so I didn't get the chance to finish this, and I'm gutted because I had the best time creating this work. It's something I'm very proud of, and I wish I could have completed it because I had such high hopes for it and I was so excited to do this project. But unfortunately, it didn't work out the way. So I have some work, but I don't have a lot of work. It was graded, but I think they had like certain conditions and ways around it to grade it. Because I created so much for this. When I got home, I spent about the first week when we stayed at home. I spent so much time just creating, because I wanted the best chance to get a decent grade, and I just was so inspired by this prompt, because I chose rhythm, and I really wanted to do rhythm of expressions and how you feel and emotions, and it was so exciting to me. So I just experimented and tried new things, found artists, did artist research, and again, by the end of this project, you could see how much I had grown as an artist, which was so cool and exciting. My creativity really shined through this piece. And I loved the different textures I worked with, all the different styles. And the artist, Vincent Lowe, I believe his name was. His style really fascinated me and I really stuck with that. And it's the simplicity that of just using lines, you could create such interesting expressions and shapes was so fascinating to me. So I really stuck with that. And then adding the colours and the watercolour, it just really popped the faces and it just made it seem like an explosion of emotions, which is exactly what I wanted to do. And so when I was at home, I created a mock of my 10-hour exam. And it's even on my channel here somewhere right at the start. My 10-hour exam time-lapse I created at home. And it just really inspired me to create art more. And that's where I really got inspiration from. So I'll put loads of videos up here for you to see of the work I did have, which is unfortunate I don't have more. But it's the best I had, and I'm very, very proud of what I did in such a short time. I just really wish I had the chance to complete it. And a few weeks ago, I was very inspired by art again, and I was just reminiscing. I was going through photos on my phone, and I found that project that I just showed you, and it made me want to create more. So I started drawing skulls all over again, and I just recreated like that clown half and half image. But I just really wanted to recreate it, so I did. And I'm very proud of how it turned out. And that's what I mean. It's all about growth. The more practice you get, the better you'll get. So I just showed that one at the beginning, which I love that one so much. So yeah, the more practice this is where you can end up. It takes time, it takes patience, it takes years. Years and years. I'm just blown away by my progression from year 10 to year 11. So it is possible, guys. You can do it. I went from a D to an A star. Walking proof. It's possible. Thank you guys so much for joining me. I've loved creating this and reminiscing, going through all my GCSE work. Hope you liked it, and if you did, please subscribe. And if you want to be part of my Patreon, where you can request videos like this one, I appreciate all my patrons. Your support means so much to me, as you guys know. I'm so grateful to have you over there. And I will see you guys in the next video.